Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. Stop laughing. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Nick. He's gonna turn off his mixer and do the same thing I did.
No.
Oh, good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
Morning.
And Gal is here.
Good morning.
Good morning. And joining us this morning is also Merle.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Sure, thank you. Our number is 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is made possible by vMix Software, Wirecast Software, Telestream's Wirecast, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Yeah, Zoom is beginning to show its colors, kind of.
Oh, geez. You're one of these people. You're buying into the media propaganda that Zoom is the
No.
problem.
The thing is, it's working great, but once more and more people are using it, I mean, today,
Well-
it may be because of the update. It may be because
I had a serious issue. I've had a serious issue for 3 weeks now. We do a Zoom, a live Zoom event for the New Hanover County GOP every Wednesday night. And the last couple, it like skips a week. So over the last 3 weeks, it's happened sporadically. The video bandwidth for everybody just goes to hell in a handbasket for almost the entire event. Like just awful, like frozen video, no video at all for everybody. It's not just one person. And, we test it before and everybody's fine. And then once the event starts, it just gets bad. And then as the night goes on, as it gets closer and closer to 8 o'clock, it slowly clears up. So there are absolutely issues with Zoom. I don't doubt it.
I, ha-
Super frustrating.
I have a solution.
Use something else.
Start at 8.
Well, we were joking that we're being censored, but I don't think that's the case.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've seen it.
And it's bad. It's not just like, oh, my video doesn't look great. The video literally like goes away. Like it will stop completely. It's pretty atrocious. And then I'm panicking and I pull up the wrong image or the wrong website and it just turns into it makes me look like a stupid jackass. It's not great.
Well, I that's how I used to be, but in the last few years, I learned people are here not to look at our faces. They're here to listen to us. So as long as the audio is there, I'm fine. But yeah, sometimes the audio starts going really bad too. And there's nothing you can do about it at that point. Nothing. But anyway, it's better than Skype, which just disappears.
That's 100% true. Yeah.
Yep. So this week, I mean, to continuation from last week about me cutting the cord, I did not cut it yet.
Oh.
But I am.
We're this close. This close.
I'm watching. I'm beginning to watch more and more of the channels that I'll have off the air.
Mhm.
And it's pretty good. It's not boring at all.
Yeah, it's a lot of syndicated,
Yeah.
I've been to your house a number of times. It's a lot of the same syndicated you watch a lot of syndicated programming anyway.
Right.
And that's a lot of what those channels are, like Bounce TV and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
So this
So,
plus what's going to come through the internet is going to be fine. So I went
oh yeah.
ahead and Katie had an old uh, HP that we set up for her a long time ago, that, like the one that I had over here for streaming. It's the XW8600. And she wasn't using it anymore. And she asked me if I wanted it a couple of months ago. And Wednesday I called. I said, "You still have it?" She said, "Yes." I'm coming to get it. So I went over there and got it. And it only had one processor, so I had a couple more Xeons. And
Of
I
course. Of freaking
and
course.
I and I added it. I didn't have the right cooler for it.
Uh-oh.
It's fine though. I mean, it's keeping it cool anyway. But I ordered one.
Perfect.
It's I mean the one for it for the 3 gigahertz is about 4 inches tall. The one that I had was about 2 inches tall.
Oh, okay. But it does have a cooler on it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it is cooling. I mean, I checked with the uh, thermometer, and it's a couple of degrees warmer than the other one.
Yeah.
So it's fine. And it's got 16 gig, so that's good. And I installed Linux on it. And Gal, you may want to talk a little bit so Nick also understands and everybody here. Nick was saying, "I'm gonna put an SSD. Put an SSD," and I'm thinking, I mean, it's gonna sit there and it's gonna serve some movies every now and then. So I told Gal, I said, "So should I continue doing it or put an SSD?" And Gal came up with a whole different outlook on SSD, and he said, "And you don't need to do it right now. Let's start with what you have." So what is it, Gal? Tell us.
Okay, so you installed the Ubuntu desktop,
Yeah,
the latest one, the
right.
2004 LTS, and what it has, it's marked as an experimental feature there, and it installs ZFS as its root and boot file system. So I talked about ZFS in the past. It's a copy on write file system. It provides very good resiliency for the the data that it stores. However, and in your case, it's not a big deal because you only have a single disk right now, just for the boot, a single disk for data. There no there's no arrays, there's no RAID, there's no
Right.
mirroring, there's no. Uh, but even with that, ZFS is um, is known to have less performance than traditional journaling file systems in Linux, ext4 and stuff like that. But the way uh, to make it not only resilient but also very very efficient is to add two partitions to it. One is called the slog, and the other I don't remember the name right now. I'll look it up later. So one is basically a write caching, and the other is sort of predictive read caching. And what it does, if you have very, very fast storage for that, or you put it on a RAM drive, for example, um, then you allow ZFS to handle the cumbersome calculation that it does while it's working with very, very fast storage, and then it commits to your permanent storage in the background. And so you don't need a huge SSD, but let's say on a 1 terabyte, even on a 8 terabyte drive, right? You put 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes, which are relatively cheap today. You put that and you serve the partitions the two partitions from it, um, you add them to, it's called a VDEV, a virtual device inside the ZFS. You add it to the ZFS and you get substantially improved performance over any file system at this point on a spinning disk. So you're still having storage on your spinning disk, but you get the improved performance of seemingly working with an SSD, right? For uh, a large amount of storage. Now ZFS costs you RAM, right? And in this situation will cost you an SSD. But this this contraption is very, very similar to what Intel does with what's it called? Had the name under my tongue. Optane, right?
Okay.
Intel does a very similar thing with Optane. You put a NVMe drive in front of the spinning drive, right? And then you get a spinning drive with improved performance because everything goes through the Optane component, which is the memory.
And
The
it's actually a PCIe device that you slot in,
No,
or
it's an
one
NVMe
of the
device.
one of the Optanes. Well, excuse me, but it is you're talking about the ones that hook up to
Well,
a PCIe
NVMe,
board, right?
the whole idea of NVMe, right,
Yeah,
is that it's bypassing the controller completely and letting the PCI bus just
correct.
get the data, right, without a middleman. And
Yeah.
so, effectively, yes, it's a PCI device, right? But it needs an SSD drive to do the work.
Yep.
What they do is they sell, uh, they when they advertise Optane, it just means that the motherboard has an Optane controller, and you decide whether the NVMe drive that you're going to put there is going to be an Optane memory cache or a standalone SSD. I the, I learned about it. I remember you talking about Optane and seeing the performance increase and all that, but I've never had firsthand um, experience with it until I took care of a friend's computer, and it was a gaming computer that the OS, the Windows OS, just blew up. Something happened. They were about to send it back to Dell. I think it was an Alienware, and I was struggling with the drives. I noticed it had an NVMe, and I couldn't get it to boot. And apparently, what happened was it's not the OS that went to Fritz. It was actually the NVMe cache that had an issue. And reading about it, I just figured out at the end how to clear up the NVMe. I had to undo the NVMe from the system. I had to disconnect that SSD drive completely, make it a standalone one. I formatted them both. Then I could um, format it again as a new NVMe drive, and then it started working. So what ZFS slog is doing and what the Optane is doing is really, really, really similar in logic, right?
Hmm.
Never mind that they're completely different architecture afterwards, but the part of using the fast storage, the very, very rapid storage that NVMe provides, even on a small scale, right? You get a large hard drive that performs like an SSD, and so that's really impressive. And you can do that in ZFS. To the other part, right, where you say where I told you you can wait, you can add the C log and the write cache. You can add it later, and you can drop it, and you're doing it while the system is live. You don't even need to reboot to get it on and off. So I say, yeah, let's start with what we have. I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think you need anything else. It it's always nice to get more performance, but right now you have some hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean I don't like to shell out when I don't need to. I don't like to take out of money out of pocket if it's not
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
You were mentioning in the did you want to say something, Nick?
No.
Oh. You were mentioning that there's no mirroring, no any um
You can add that later.
I know.
Yeah.
Uh but I always learned that when you set up something and in the
Mhm.
beginning and you're not familiar with it, the chances that you screw it up are going to be higher than later on. So wouldn't it make a um, sense to get another drive? Uh,
Right now, well, I mean, it really, really, really depends on whether you're gonna like it first, right?
right.
You're gonna like the setup in the first place, and then on how much storage you want. At this point, I would say wait. Let's
Okay.
start. Let's let it spin because you're really starting with it, and I don't know whether this is going to be something you're going to love or you're going to be frustrated with, right? So uh, before you decide on the hardware, just test out the software, see what's going on.
Okay. All right. That's
Uh,
fine. That's fine.
yeah.
Good. Good.
Now, there's two approaches, right? If you have 1 terabyte drive and then you decide, yeah, I'm going to go big. I want two 8 terabyte drives now, right? So so this would say so you will want to replace also the 1 terabyte probably with the 2 terabyte ones. And so creating a mirror right now on the 1 terabyte will be
I
an
see.
investment,
Yeah.
right? That might not be in the right direction.
Right.
So right now let's just test it. So
Okay. All right. Good enough.
So did you buy a TV tuner?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I got the home run 4 channel
Cool.
okay, good.
So that'll allow you to
149.
watch. That will allow you to watch four completely different, or have four different over the
Recording.
air streams, either watching live and or recording at the same time. It's pretty cool.
Now, Gal,
Hmm.
how do you take a feed from what I'm going to end up with that tuner and Plex
Hmm.
and run it to the bedroom? I mean, how do you get
So
t-
Plex does it all for you.
how
Yeah,
with
you
what?
just pull up the
Okay,
Plex app.
not
Plex is going to handle the uh,
Think about it like
EPG.
this. Hold on a second. Think about it like this. Plex is like your cable box now. Is that
okay.
that right, Kyle? That's
Yeah,
the way.
yeah, exactly.
Plex is your cable box. It is the interface to all of your content.
Okay, so
So you'll need Plex in your bedroom. That's all.
Be careful with that.
question: what cable? I mean, right now I have coax going from the
You don't
living room.
need cable.
No, you
So
need some sort of RJ45 or
okay, so you
Wi-Fi on
need
your
Ethernet.
TV.
You need Ethernet.
Yeah. So
Okay,
again,
that's
do you
fine.
have a smart TV in the bedroom?
Yeah,
And is it connected to the Wi-Fi?
no, it's connected to coax, which
Yeah, but
is
that's for cable.
that's correct. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm wondering. What do you?
Yeah, but
I
that's
mean,
why I'm asking. If it's a smart TV, what type of IP interface does it have?
I don't know. I never looked for it.
So usually TVs come with Wi-Fi. Try the Wi-Fi first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
should be enough.
All right. That's fine. I was just thinking about it, and I said, yeah, I wonder if I'm going to be able to utilize the coax.
Yeah, all of the TVs around my house, they're Wi-Fi, and I can tell you we're streaming HD content without any issue.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another myth. Um, God, I wanna hear a little bit about this from you.
Yeah.
You if you've got a decent Wi-Fi, you don't need Ethernet to stream content internal. Now, is it preferred?
Internally, no.
Is it preferred? Yes. Is it do you have less of a chance of an issue? Yes, but there's I think it's just from days in the past where Wi-Fi kind of sucked. Um, you don't need to run. You don't really need Ethernet to to have a bunch of streaming devices. Merle, I know you stream a lot of content, Are all your devices Ethernet, or do you have a bunch of Wi-Fi devices?
No, so all my devices are Wi-Fi. However, I did, and if you remember, a few years ago, I upgraded my access point to a Ubiquity access point because I was having issues using one of the commercial off the shelf. I forget what it was, Wi-Fi access points, especially with my Ring doorbell. But once I upgraded to, and I guess you would consider Ubiquity kind of a commercial application. Once I updated to that Ubiquity wireless access point, I mean, everything that I do except this streaming PC right here is using Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Which is
I had
much
the same
different from the
experience.
past.
I had the same experience, right? Now that I have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the Ubiquity access point, um, the the quality of the and I just had to buy one because my house isn't that big, and I didn't need to do. At first, I thought I'll need to, place it in separate in a very specific location. No, it's still in its old crappy location, plus minus, and so um, once I got good Wi-Fi, yeah, invest in good Wi-Fi, then don't need to worry about the wires so much.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, obviously, if you're
yeah,
doing, if you're like, for example, your media server itself, that should be hooked up via Ethernet, but your Roku's and your Fire TVs or
yeah,
your smart TVs themselves, you can get away with Wi-Fi as long as you've invested in decent infrastructure.
yeah. I tested speed from my mobile, right, in a lot of locations in the home, and I have full speed everywhere, exactly like I mean internet speed, exactly like I have on my desktop, which is connected. And so that means to me, right? I have a 100 megabyte megabit connection. So that means I get the 100 megabits. Now for 4K, uh,
Yeah,
very
I know.
good streaming 4K, you need about 20 megabits, right? So if you can get 20 megabits, you can probably see almost any content without any hiccups, without any issues. You won't feel it. So Wi-Fi should suffice, but invest in your Wi-Fi. I I I mean, just as I told Amnon, right? I don't like to shell out when I don't need to. I think the amount of money I spent on Wi-Fi in the past 7 years has probably overshadowed the amount that I took out on the Ubiquity setup that I did about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and is the quality and the convenience is just, it's mind blowing.
What did you get?
I got I basically replaced my network with Ubiquity equipment. So I got the gateway,
Mhm.
UGW, I think it's called, the gateway, and the um, and a switch, an 8-port switch, which also has power over Ethernet. I bought that as preamble to hook up some power over Ethernet cameras later, and and an access point. The I don't remember if it's the HD one. I'm bad at the details, but like fourth level out of their offering, something like that. Not the most expensive one, but one or two below. So
Did you get a cloud key?
no, no, I run the controller software on a Docker.
Okay,
Actually, part of Home Assistant. It has an add-on. I didn't need to do much. It
gotcha.
does require a few settings which you need to notice. You need to read the manual of the add-on, the Docker add-on first, because there's some quirks compared to a key or something just installed on your Windows machine. But yeah, it works. It works great.
Cool.
Oh. Well, I have a an access point right below the TV, one of the TP link, the access point over Ethernet over power line,
Yeah,
and
that
it
that
does
should
have
work.
Ethernet sockets an RJ45. So if I need the wire, I
Right,
can
you can.
just hook
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
to
if you've got it, I'd use it. That's
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
great thing about it. If
Yeah.
it's available, you should always
Yeah.
use it. But if
Right.
it's not, don't think, oh, I'm never going to be able to stream
No.
anything.
No.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about it.
But let me ask you guys this, because Amnon just talked about the Ethernet over the power line, and I have one of those right now because I don't run Ethernet throughout the house. But and I think I talked to you, Nick. There are some instances where that won't work because of the way, I guess, the power is distributed throughout your house. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the way that I'm don't don't quote me on any of this information because it's been a while since I've looked into it. But the way that the power over Ethernet works is if you look at your house, you've got your outlets are daisy chained. They run in a loop and then they find their way back to the power box at some point. Um, but if you open up your breaker panel, there's a left and a right side panel, and those are two separate buses on your uh,
Two
on
different
most boxes. That's how it
legs.
works. You have
Yeah.
different legs, exactly. So in certain instances, if you're trying to connect something that's on the right side of the box with power over Ethernet to the left, it, those two are not connected, and you will not get a signal.
That's
Um,
correct.
so it's dependent on the electrical setup in your house.
Yep.
Um, I will give you one tip though, and this is something that back when I was living at home, way back, I wanted to run Ethernet up to my room on the second floor because all the internet came in the basement. Um, and I was going to get one of those power over Ethernet things, and my father had the idea. Now, this obviously works easier in multiple story houses, which is this running. Now you can think, oh, I'm going to have to rip a wall apart to run coax. If you've got central air and you've got air returns, those are perfect vents to run cables in. There's not high pressure. It's not getting hot or cold, and depending on what room you're trying to run something in, you can punch a hole through the back of an air return into into the baseboard of another room and pull a cable through that. So the power over Ethernet, by the way, power over Ethernet over the power line works incredibly well as long as you've got good power. If your house is got an electrical system from the 1940s, your experience might not be great. But if you've got a house probably within the last 30 years, I would imagine that system will work pretty well. Um, but also take a look at an air return, if that's available. That's a very simple way to snake cable, especially if you're going from downstairs to up. You just we tied a washer to a string, let it drop all the way down. We heard where it dinged, drilled a hole through it, and tied it, and pulled it up. It was super easy. So
Yeah, there's more than one
and
way
that's
to
been
skin
working
a
out
cat.
good for you, Merle?
Yeah. So the Ethernet, what do you call it? Ethernet over power has been, it worked fairly well. I get about, if you can believe the statistics that come with the application, I get about 200 megabits per second using that, and that's enough for the streaming PC. So it only has one Ethernet right now. I do want to update it because I guess there are models out now that you can have two Ethernet through one device, because I need to add a second PC in my setup here. But yeah, it works phenomenally. I was a little worried at first because I have a whole house generator, and when you add a whole house generator, then I've got like two boxes, and stuff happens between those boxes. And I was initially worried about it, but yeah, I've been running it now for about 2 years, and I mean, it works phenomenally well. But I mean, back to my, Ubiquity wireless access point. I mean, I think I could probably get away with, doing the live streaming with that, but I just don't want to rely on the WAP to do that, because like someone said in the chat, they were talking about the difference between 2.5 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, with, nominally, right, you'd want 5 gigahertz, but I think I'm far enough away from the wireless access point. I get a signal at 5 gigahertz, but it's not the strongest signal. So I would rather have the strongest. So everything on the second floor of my house is connected to the 2.5 gigahertz band, and everything on the first floor is at the 5 gigahertz band because my WAP is in my basement. But yeah, my setup so far works fairly well. Now I have been thinking about, because I have 2 internet connections coming into my house. I got one, which is our private, and the other one is for my wife. She's a work from home. It's for the business. And because of that, there's like coax ran all around the house. I have been thinking, because we AT&T came in and we got rid of AT&T for that. But when they did that, of course, Spectrum came in and ran a new line and everything. So there's multiple, I guess there's a lot of coax ran throughout the house. And I have been thinking, because I wanted to put something over on the other side of the house and possibly have it wired, using some of those coax to Ethernet adapters to do that. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. I'm sure it works well, because I mean, coax has been around for a long time, and I think you can carry a coax signal a lot farther than Ethernet, right? Because Ethernet's about
Oh yeah.
100 meters, 328 feet.
Oh,
Yeah,
Wait.
but you'll be limiting to 10/100 connection. Coax wouldn't be able to pass through a gigabyte connection.
Depends on what
Oh,
I guess it depends what grade coax it is, right? If it's that cheap shit that like a contractor puts in, it's if it's copper coated coax, it's going to be a lot different than coax. So it's going to be dependent on the quality of the cable.
Yeah, well, if it's something that a cable company put in, then it can handle around 100 megabits bandwidth,
depends.
right? Because
Gal, depends when they put it, because they used
agreed,
to put that, and now they're putting higher quality.
I agree, I agree, I
Yeah.
agree. But you cannot get gigabit over coax, right? That's don't. I mean, it might work, but usually the adapters, they'll be limited to 1000 because coax isn't designed
For
for
that.
such a high bandwidth.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Somebody
I haven't
asked
looked into
about
them,
Home
though.
Assistant and MudPie, so I don't think any of us has any experience with MudPie.
and
That's,
Nick,
garden.
to
Alan's asking oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, to add to what you were talking about, the 2 legs in the box.
Mhm.
It depends how it's wired again, but if you're handy at all and you see that socket that you want to use is not on the same leg, you could go into the box and just figure out which one it is and then move it to another. But it's not something that you should do yourself without knowing that outlet is not going to use the full capacity ever, and that the other one that you are plugging it in with is not going, because you don't want to overload outlets, but you can solve that problem.
If you're going to go through that trouble,
Yeah.
just run a damn Ethernet cable.
Yeah,
and
that's
call it a
true.
day. If you're
That's
going to
true.
be if you're going to be moving buses on your breaker
Yeah.
box, just stop being a baby and go to the store and get
Yeah.
500-foot cable snake and call it a day.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
imagine that's going to be a lot easier approach at
True.
the end of the day.
True. True.
Yeah. By the
And-
way, I think Mike told us about this. If you want to get some cable run, a lot of these guys that work for Spectrum and or at least on the East Coast Spectrum, I would assume it's the same thing with Comcast or Dish or anything like that. A lot of these guys do that stuff on the side.
Yep.
Because they've got all the equipment through their job.
Right.
So if you know somebody or know somebody that knows somebody that works for one of these companies, I guarantee you they'll run a cable for you through your house for $100 or something like
Yep.
that. It's not very expensive. You just need to find somebody that's got the right, the right cable snakes and knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So you might want to.
So what Alan
gotta
is
give that a look as well.
asking, what?
Alan's asking an electrical question. He says, does Ethernet over power have an interface that would allow one to feed the house through the 220 volt stove and dryer outlet because they use both buses? Alan, I have no idea. I'm not.
I would also doubt it.
That's above
I
my
would.
my pay grade in the electrical world.
Network power have the interface that would allow one to
Oh,
feed
he's
the
saying, can you
house
put it
through the
on one of
220.
those because it feeds
Uh,
both buses? I don't know.
yeah, but the thing about it is a 110 unit, so you can get an adapter that will go from one to the other.
But it's
But
still only
it's
going to
not.
take
It's
one leg.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
still gonna because the two
I-
legs, like for the dryer, that's how you get 220. Is 110 and 110, and you get 220, 240.
I can't imagine they sell a 220
no.
power power line over Ethernet adapter.
No, but the chances are that if you go to an adjacent room,
Oh yes.
you're gonna find one that's on the other leg because it's stretched out. It's kind of load balanced, so to speak. So you may even be able to find out that the two outlets in the same room are actually on two different legs.
Well,
It all
you could also
depends.
find out that an outlet across the other side of the room is on the
Right.
same damn circuit, and they
That's-
don't even really go back to the box. They just talk through the
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all daisy chain. Our traditional junction box has got incoming and outgoing, so it can be pigtailed around the room.
Yeah, we had when we bought the house, it was a box that had 8 fuses, the screw-on glass fuses
Oh my
for the
god.
whole house. And then we changed it and we had a big breaker box and had each outlet and each switch go to a separate breaker. So there are
Why?
no two wires together because it's easier to this is the way it should be. And this friend
Yeah.
of mine who was an electrician did it for us. Said, "I'm not. Everything needs to be
Yeah.
separated because right now you have 7 circuits on one
Yeah.
fuse. You
Very
can't
common.
do that. Yeah. So
Very common.
that's easy, and it was nice to find out that nothing was daisy chained. Which you're right. A lot of places that's how they save money.
Well, I mean,
And
yeah.
they-
Well, it's not even how you save money. It's just about it's a convenience thing. And for
Yeah.
most for example, we redid right before I moved. My father and I redid the basement, and we ripped it down to the studs. And I think we put 4 outlets down there, and we daisy chained them. But you knew the application. It's a basement. There's nothing plugged into them. It's a TV and a
Yeah,
cable
that-
box
then
and stuff
it's
like
okay,
that. He's not
but
running
yeah.
power tools and stuff on it. So
Right.
it's about knowing your application as well.
Yep. Yep.
And still working. Look at that. Didn't even have to pull a permit.
Knock on wood.
Not my problem anymore.
All right. So
Gal, do you have some? Gal, you brought something back. Do you have something to show and tell?
Right. So this is a power line, 2 units, right?
Mhm.
TP-Link. I took them out after I set up the new network because I didn't need them anymore. So the way it works, one unit you hook it up very close to the switch, right? You put a Ethernet cable in, you hook it up to the power. This one even allows you to still keep the power, and you put this at the other end, another
Mhm.
room, a basement. It has Ethernet going out, so you can hook up a couple of new devices wired. But it's also all of these blinking lights over here. It's also a Wi-Fi access point.
Right. Yeah, that's what
And
I have.
right. And so the reason I went to look for them because I wanted to see if by any chance they made them multi voltage,
No.
right? Yeah, but they're not. They're 100 to 120 volts with 15 ampere maximum load, which
Yeah.
is decent. Right? This is for the one that you can hook power to. The other one doesn't have a maximum load because it's opaque. It doesn't accept any capacity.
Mhm.
I guess they didn't put it here because probably there's a lot more electronics over here. Probably not by much, but enough to. And if you hook something to it, you'll probably also disturb the RF. And this is a broadcasting station, right? So, but yeah, it worked pretty well for a while, but I definitely should have invested in better Wi-Fi first before buying these. They work, but what the problem with okay Wi-Fi compared to good Wi-Fi is you'll get connected, you'll get the bandwidth you want, but you'll need to manage it. You'll need to switch your between your access point manually on your cell phone when
Yep.
you're moving through the house, and a lot of stuff like that. And when you get good, very well designed equipment, then suddenly you have a single SSID network that you connect to, and it doesn't matter where you're at home. And if you're using a single access point that does very good broadcasting and can communicate very well with your phone, then you don't even need to think about that, right? Because it's just a single point. And Ubiquity, as well as others, they do mesh very well as well. So yeah, investing in good Wi-Fi, it's no longer, I believe, this day and age, especially for our listeners, right? It's no longer an option. It's not like something that it's no longer at the bottom of the priority list, or at least it shouldn't be.
You're right.
Yeah.
In the early days, I remember of doing streaming, live streaming, and broadcasting. If a guest, and I'm talking 7, 8, 9 years ago,
Mhm.
if a guest was on Skype and they were using wireless, it
Yeah.
was hell. And I don't care if they sit right next to the router, right next to the antenna. It's still somehow video
Yeah, the
did not
drops.
like.
Yeah.
And it got better and better and better, but still.
Well, there was, let's talk about that for a second, though.
Yeah.
What's changed, right? So, not
The protocol.
only has the infrastructure itself changed, right? Everything was 2.4 gigahertz,
Right.
but also the um, the Wi-Fi NICs that are in the computers are a lot better than they were.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just, and that's the other thing too. As Gal said, obviously you don't want to skimp out on your Wi-Fi, but you can have the best Wi-Fi in the world if you've got a bunch of old crappy pieces of equipment like Roku ones or Roku twos with old NICs in them. I mean, you're solving one. You're really only solving half of the problem. You've got the whole infrastructure needs to be
From end to
modern.
end.
Now,
Yeah.
Well, actually, you're not
Yeah.
even solving anything, because if you're using very old technology, those with B and maybe even G, right? Then
Yeah.
your NICs are dumbing themselves down to that level universally.
Across. Yeah.
So all of your new devices are also getting crappy performance because something in the network is dictating, let's go older.
Is that the same situation with the Ubiquity?
It does know how to do it, but you can limit those devices, or you can split it to a different access point if you want to
Okay.
shell out, right? So you allow only a certain access point to perform that way, and the rest of the access point will work better.
Mm-hmm.
And because it allows you to manage this system as a whole, right? Even if you have multiple components, you work with the system as a whole, single system. Then you have control, you have granularity like that from a single control panel, and it makes it very
Right.
Well, one of the best things I think I did was I got rid of everything that the cable company provided, to include the cable modem. I mean, I went out and bought and it's cheaper in the long run, right? Because I think I was renting the cable modem for $10 a month. So for $120, I went out and got a DOCSIS 3 surfboard for a little under $200. I got the Ubiquity wireless access point, because everything in my experience that the cable company has provided was just junk. But so once I did that, I mean, my network is the stability internally, I mean, is phenomenal. Now, if I could just get Spectrum to give me real internet access. I mean, I live in Dayton, Ohio, and we're supposed to be, this great technology city because, aerospace and everything. And, I sit and watch Mike Phillips post internet speeds where he's at. And the best I can get right now from home is 100 down and 20 up. So that's a little frustrating to me, but yeah, once I got rid of the crap that the cable provider gave me, my stuff runs pretty rock solid.
Yeah, that's important too. Those custom modems, and then also getting off of the Spectrum wireless access point that's built in. That thing is a heaping pile of garbage. I've got mine, but I don't use it. I've got my own router. But yeah, that's huge. And again, that's the thing is you piecemealing this thing together isn't going to work, because if you're like, oh, let me just get a couple of wireless access points, but you're using Spectrum's modem and router, it's like, well, that's great, but you've got a bottleneck elsewhere. So now, to be clear, you don't have to replace everything. It's just important to map that stuff out before you say, okay, I'm going to update my entire infrastructure. Figure out where your weakness might or might not be, and then start upgrading pieces as it makes sense to. And it doesn't cost a lot. I mean, you didn't drop $10,000 to get a new network
No.
setup. How much was it? A couple $100?
$450 for the entire network equipment.
It's not
And
crazy.
that covered me also for, I replaced the Google Fiber box completely, because what the Google Fiber, so there's a fiber outlet coming in, there's a some sort of adapter to Ethernet, and that one works with power over Ethernet. It needs I don't remember if it needs 24 or 48 volts. And so my plan was buying a switch with power over Ethernet, right? Hooking it up there. But I also bought the gateway, the web gateway, UGW. I'm probably butchering the names. I'm sorry. And that doesn't have power over Ethernet going out, and that should be the first hop. Luckily, I also bought the AP, and the AP are power over Ethernet, and they come with a converter, power over Ethernet converter, so a power adapter.
Mhm.
And so I used that power adapter for the fiber jack, hooked it up to the gateway, hooked that gateway to the switch, and the switch is providing the power over Ethernet for the access point. So that covered me. I didn't need to. At first, after I ordered everything, I started thinking about the design and the day that I'm going to set up everything. And I thought, oh my God, I probably need another power over Ethernet adapter. Luckily, it was included with the access point. So $450. I actually paid a bit more. I bought 4 years coverage on the equipment, and that's it, right? And took me a night of work, and I did it at night because my server throughout the day has become a production server for my my family and friends. So it was it was a long night. I started at probably 11:30 at night, ended at 8 a.m. And that's mostly because accessing all my hardware is terrible. I don't have a rack. I don't have a proper rack. It's all hidden behind some very, very heavy desk. And so set up everything. The amount of junk I got it out though was impressive. Yeah, and I was throughout the entire process, I was fearing that I'm gonna regret it, right? Shelling out $450, it's still not, it's not pocket money, right? And taking down everything, and I knew everybody's gonna complain. Zero complaints, right? The only things I did have to spend another probably 24 hours of tweaking and troubleshooting, and some, I forgot to hook up that piece in the house to the Wi-Fi, stuff like that. But it finally works properly. I do not need to reset things every day. I do not need to switch things every day. It's like the nuisance is gone. It's gone. And
I will say this though, and maybe you'll disagree with me, Gal and Merle, but if you're not super techie, I think I'd stray away from Ubiquity.
oh, I agree. You need to know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Now,
I would say,
if you have
I
a
would
friend,
say if you're right. Yeah, that's what I would say. If you have a friend, but I mean, you don't have to. I mean, I did networking back in the Cisco, 1500 switch days. I mean, so I haven't done networking in over 20 years, and I got this thing installed. Thankfully, we have YouTube today, and there's a wealth of knowledge out there. So if you're a little savvy, I mean, you don't have to be super savvy,
Yeah.
but I mean, it is not anything like setting up something you buy off the shelf at Best Buy where it's basically plug and play. But I will say, I mean, if you're willing to take and have an adventure, I mean, once it's up and running, I mean, and I run it at my church. I put in 2 wireless access points. I have a power over Ethernet switch. I have the bridge, which I haven't hooked up yet. And it works phenomenally well because in that environment, that's a commercial environment. They were initially using stuff that they bought at Best Buy and they was wondering why it wasn't working. I'm like, well, because this isn't your traditional house. Right. It's not designed, and they don't get that. They still, even today, I mean, they're like, well, it's slow when we're doing this streaming. I'm like, well, you got to understand. I mean, you got people coming in and using it. It's like a straw. You have a big straw here, but it hits a small straw when it comes into the street. So if you want your people to, because I mean, we get 200 to 400 people, hooking up and, trying to download stuff. And they just, today, I can't make them understand that your issue's at the curb. But you're right, Nick. I mean, if it's grandma who's hooking it up or mom and dad, and yeah, maybe they should just stick with what they buy at Best Buy. But let's be real. Those people probably aren't doing anything outside the norm other than using it to go online and search the internet. And I mean, they're not doing stuff like we do, setting up Plex servers and FTP servers and all this stuff. So
Yeah. So, and I mean, if you're going to get because here's the thing, these store bought brands at Best Buy and whatnot, they're not bad. They're not. Most of them are not bad. Now, if you go for the $38.99 router special of the week, okay, you might have some interesting performance. But if you're going to spend, I don't know, $150 or so, I think anything you're going to get over that price range is going to be good. And in most cases, unless you live in a mansion, is going to probably cover your, or your houses or your walls are lined with steel. Is probably going to cover a house pretty well. So I don't, if you're going to get a store-bought brand, Netgear they all make good stuff. Now everybody has had problems with one or the other, but if you're going to spend at least 120, $150, you'll probably get something that's pretty good. That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Yar.
Yar.
Okay. Yar. All right. Let's see. I was trying to do something here. I want to see if this will work. It may not work on. Let's see.
Hello, everybody. It's the Lone Squirrel. I'm here to tell you all about Lee Brown and about his show.
Can you hear that?
Yep.
Yes.
But it's too loud, isn't it?
What, you're playing the Dirty Boxers?
Yeah.
Nick, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So, I guess you got the Epic Games launcher installed and waiting eagerly for the weekly offer.
No.
What was the weekly offer this week?
Grand Theft Auto.
And what happened?
The entire server crashed.
Nothing is working. My son is screaming the entire day.
Well, see, everybody was freaking out about it. I already own 3 copies of GTA 5. I own it on the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, and Steam already. So I passed on that.
Well, obviously, but right, my son had it on the PlayStation. Now he has it on the PC, and the fun thing of having it on the PC for free is you can play with all of your friends on the PC, right? But yeah, it's a shit show. It's like, what did you expect?
Yeah. Well, hey, it's a relatively new platform. Of course, everybody loves to give Epic grief.
Yeah, but the problem wasn't on Epic. The problem is on Rockstar's network. It has nothing to do with Epic. Epic just gave the offering.
Yeah, but the Epic store itself went down. You could not even get to the store.
Okay, so we didn't have that experience.
Okay, the store was literally down all weekend, or for like all day Friday.
Well, probably from So my son he went on the bandwagon on Saturday start. So that was probably after that wave. But still connecting to Rockstar. What
Rockstar.
is with that captcha thing? It's like ridiculous. Every time he tried, it became longer and longer session and longer
Yep.
session of a captcha identification. Just this is how to it's like a honeypot, right, where you lure in the bees or whatever, and this was like excruciatingly painful. Eventually he got in, but it's like, yeah, it's hit or miss. Amazing. So yeah, think twice before offering something that used to cost $30, uh, right, the lowest price.
Yeah.
Think twice before offering it for free.
I just got it on Epic for free, so now I own 4 copies of
Oh,
GTA 5.
all right. Let's see what else we have here. So, if you're working for Facebook, in a landmark acknowledgement of the toll that content moderation takes on its workforce, Facebook has agreed to pay $52 million to current and former moderators to compensate them for mental health issues developed on the job. Can you
Okay.
imagine? What?
Okay.
They're suffering from PTSD.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I actually there's I don't know if you know the channel. There's a YouTube channel called Smarter Every Day. Very cool guy. Um, he usually he started with doing a lot of slow mo and stuff like that, and he likes to look at things and see how they're working. And he has a series of videos talking about gaming the system, how YouTube is being gamed, how Facebook is being gamed. And the last part was about Reddit and how they handle um, how their algorithms and their policies, how they handle attempts of gaming the system, right?
Mhm.
And out of YouTube, Facebook, I don't remember what was the third one. I don't remember if it was Google, the search engine, or something else. Uh, Twitter. So YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. Reddit is the only one out of the 4 that is somewhat successful in honing down its trolls and malicious actors because it is mostly community driven. Each subreddit has its own set of moderators and they get to set the rules within the subreddit, right? And it seems that that is working a lot better than the way Facebook and Twitter and the rest are trying to handle it via algorithms only and internally owned moderators, right?
Okay.
And so this lawsuit is actually interesting because you're saying once it's enforced, right? Once it's not a choice, it's your work, right? You get disgruntled people because they need to handle content that they didn't even want to start with in the first place. They they get PTSD, right? And with Reddit, it is organically happening. People, volunteers, right? Those who want to run these communities, they're dealing with it, and it seems like they're dealing with it rather successfully. And it's really it is an interesting how this ties into ways of doing it, and seems like the commercial way isn't the best way.
Until Reddit decides they don't like your community and ban you from the website. You know, that's a huge thing
That
too.
I truly think it's legitimate, right? Because the way it happens is you it's all about using a platform, right? eventually,
Of
right?
course.
And that's the main complaint, right? Most of the complaint is banning free speech.
No, it's not. It's their
No, I
platform.
mean
They can do whatever they want.
those who get kicked out. That's
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
their
yeah.
complaint, right?
Yeah.
But it's when it's the discussion about the entire community, the discussion is done with the moderators, with those who own, right, the control over the community. And if you do not want to shape it into a form that works with whoever is giving the platform, I think it's legitimate. But it also means that whoever owns the platform has somebody to talk with. It's not like the community. You're talking with the moderators. You're talking with a small group of people, and you can have that conversation because you gave them ownership of that little piece of land.
Well, Reddit made real asses of themselves with how they handled the Don. I don't know how closely you followed that, Gal, but they came in and appointed Reddit employees as moderators and then started kicking people off of the forum, and then everybody just left. I mean, Reddit did a terrible job with that. The supposedly the front page of the internet came in and essentially Reddit themselves, Reddit employees essentially overthrew the most active subreddit on the website. And I don't use Reddit anymore because of it. It's pretty, now obviously it's their platform. They can do whatever the hell they want. They own it. But I just don't like this. I don't like the whole, this whole thing of, oh, it's community driven. And exactly, you're right. They allow the moderators to do it until Reddit doesn't agree with it. And then they literally overthrew the entire subreddit. They appointed their own moderators.
What was the reason they started getting involved in that subreddit?
Because it was related to Trump and Orange Man Bad. It was the Donald Trump subreddit. Yeah, because everybody that votes for Trump is a Nazi. That, the typical bullshit you hear all the time with anybody that likes Trump. And it was just total fabrication.
I'm a little, I guess, call me naive, but I would have thought by this point they would be using AI to do most of that because, I mean, artificial intelligence has come such a long way that, I mean, I would have assumed a company like Facebook would use AI to do the majority of it, right? I mean, I can't believe they're still using all these people.
Well, Twitter tries to do it, and you can see when Twitter does it because something will be trending. For example, Obamagate was trending big last week. It was number one, then it was gone, right? It was the top thing, and then it just vanished because the AI kicked in and said, okay, we're going to get rid of this. They do use the AI, but I guess it takes a little bit sometimes for the AI to catch up on new. And by the way, the Reddit AI did the same thing again. And I'll just speak about my one example here from the Don on Reddit. Their posts never made it to the front page ever. The most active community on Reddit, the most upvoted posts on Reddit never made it to the front page because of AI, because of how they had the algorithm set. And it was just, I'm all for, controlling your own platform, but don't give me this horse shit about, oh, we're the front page of the internet and, just click upvote. And because that's what makes Reddit so great is, as Gal said, the community decides what's good, what's not. They click the upvote. But then when Reddit, like Google and Facebook and Twitter, decides they want to play content police, the platform is useless. It's the same issue with Twitter. It's the same issue with Facebook. I retweet stuff. I don't see people's tweets I follow. I mean, I follow people on Twitter. I don't see their tweets. I got to go to their timeline. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's asinine. I mean, do what you want with a platform, but just be honest about it.
Yeah, if they let people know that such and such is happening, then at least this way you don't know what's going on. Or most people don't know.
You go to the front page of Reddit and you see 15 posts from our politics, but not a single post from the Donald Trump subreddit, which has got 3 times the activity.
Yeah.
And it was just like, how, come on, guys, at least give some semblance of trying to be
impartial.
Being impartial. So what did the people did? They went off and they started their own site, the Donald.win. They cloned a Reddit and started their own website. And Reddit, Tim Pool made a video on this past week. Reddit's traffic lost about 25-30% of their traffic after this. It was a huge user base that just vanished. I mean, the president of the United States did an AMA on his own subreddit back in 2017. I mean, they lost it. Reddit, because they wanted to play politics, they lost it. It's unfortunate. And did you see there's a class action lawsuit against Google now?
No.
Did you see that?
No.
Let me see if I can find the find the post here. Oh, excuse me, not a class action lawsuit. The DOJ is going to, hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find the Justice Department and the state attorney general are going to file an antitrust lawsuit against Google, says the Wall Street Journal as of yesterday.
Antitrust.
Because of that.
No, not because of that, but
Oh.
well, because of some of the antitrust things that they're doing.
No.
So
Yeah.
a bunch of state attorney generals are jumping in on this lawsuit.
Amnon,
Yeah.
I think you need to hire a lawyer. We're next. So
No. No. If somebody comes here on the show and talks about
yeah, but
Biden-
importance wise, after Google, that's us. Come on.
if somebody here talks about Biden or anything like that, or on any of the shows here, they talk about the other side, I just look at it as entertainment and I laugh, and it's a good break away from serious stuff.
Yeah, now, by the way, the Google thing is not for anything to do with politics. It's got to do with their advertising and their search
Now I remember.
advertising and their search results. Yeah.
Yes, they're dominating. They're using their dominance to affect advertising.
And-
yeah, you're
And
right.
you know, we've talked about this in the past, and this is a tricky subject. Without getting too into politics about it, this is a tricky subject for conservative-minded individuals who are typically anti-government, involvement in things. But you get to a certain point where all of these tech giants, they have all admittedly have a bias, and it is one way. I mean, there's no doubting it. If you don't think that's the case, then go live back under your rock. I mean, they all have an admitted bias that leans one way. They've all admitted it.
Yeah,
It's you can
they're
see
all
it anywhere.
right.
It does beg the question at what, I don't want in this case, the FCC or whoever it would be to step in and slap these guys on the wrist and say, hey, this is ridiculous. But at what point do these sources of what they call information, when does it become, and this has been the question for years, when does it become we are just a platform for people to talk, and when are we actually curating content? And I think you can absolutely make the argument that Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, Google, Facebook, they are all at this point content curators because they are censoring certain types of content. And that's when I think, and I don't say this lightly, that's at some point the FTC or somebody has got to jump in and say, hey, if you want to curate content, that's fine. But the reason that they can't be sued for things is because they say, oh, we're an open platform, right? We don't publish any of the content. We don't write the content. That's why you'll never see somebody post that, hey, if I post on Facebook, I'm going to go kill Amnon. Facebook isn't liable for it because it's an open platform. Right? There's no,
But let me ask you this.
What?
So I get your point. Okay. There's one thing that troubles me though. All of the platforms, they definitely start as let's allow everyone,
Right.
and see what happens, right? And then they have a bunch of assholes starting to use it as well, right? It doesn't matter if the asshole is doing it for money because he was paid to, or it's just his opinion or whatever. And then they start to enforce their point of view, let's call it, or their vantage point on reality. How come all of these systems are always leaning left, according to whoever's complaining?
Because the people on the right are more complacent. They're not go getter.
But But it
hold on a
sounds
second
like,
here.
but it sounds like the people on the right are always complaining, so they're not that complacent.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. It's got nothing to do with left or right. Right. The big issue is that, for example, if a newspaper publishes something, they're liable for it. If the newspaper publishes Gal is a terrorist, if your local Durham newspaper publishes Gal, you are a terrorist, they are responsible for that content. They published it.
Right. But
Google and Facebook.
But if I put out an ad, right, in the personals, and I say Nick is a terrorist, they're not liable.
Correct.
That's the thing, right?
Correct.
They have their own section. So
correct. But there's the difference. The newspaper is going to run anybody's classified ad that they want. Now, there might be some rules dictated. I don't know what print media, if there are any regulations in print media like there are on radio and TV. But the reason that Google and these companies are abolished of any fault of anything is because they say they don't curate any content, but they do, and that's the struggle. I don't give a shit what political side they fall on. If you want to curate content,
for sure they censor.
And that's a problem. If you're going to censor content, then you need to be responsible for the content on your platform. That's all. If you want to have an open platform, fine.
No,
that's
I
how
do
it
not
works.
agree.
That's law. That's legal. That's how it works.
Sorry to disturb, but if you do not heat off the chaos will take over. So the fact that you want an open platform doesn't mean a free-for-all range. Because if somebody comes with the guns, you need to somehow stop the guns from taking over everyone. Right?
Even open platforms have rules. For example, no site allows you to post things like child pornography, which is illegal everywhere. So any site censors that content, and there's no legal issue with them censoring content. The question is, there's things that are illegal. For example, drugs. Posting things about drugs are illegal. Talking about killing people. Those things are not allowed on any of these platforms. Those are things that are inherently illegal. Right? That's one thing. But when Merle is getting
there, right?
But then when Merle gets dinged for posting an article that the AI is told to tamp down, that's a whole different ballgame. I'm not saying you should be allowed to run into a movie theater and yell fire, but if Merle wants to walk into a movie theater and say, "Hey, I don't like this movie," and they handcuff him and throw him out back and beat the living hell out of him, that's a different story, right? So I'm not saying free for all.
Yeah, but what about just throwing him out without beating him? That's also what the complaint is about.
Well, so that's what YouTube is doing to someone that I know in the gun community. He runs a site called Warrior Poet Society, and I've taken some gun classes from this guy. He's an ex-Army Ranger and phenomenal guy, and he's a Christian, and YouTube has been censoring his videos, and his videos aren't like, him storming, and killing Taliban and stuff like that. His videos are basically teaching people about the Second Amendment, teaching people how to handle and manipulate a gun. I mean, just your basic stuff that is being censored today. So what he has done is he started his own platform outside of YouTube where you can do a subscription, and it's went over phenomenally well. But that's a slippery slope that we're talking about here. Is a lot of the conservatives are talking about regulation. I'm always afraid when you ask the government to come regulate anything, because I mean, as I've said in past, I mean, power corrupts absolute power corrupts, right? I mean, we got to be really careful. And we had this discussion last night on my podcast that we were talking about, Google has every right to do whatever they want to do. It's a private platform. There really is no such thing as freedom of speech, but you got to know that going into it, right? I mean, there's no expectation of privacy. You're going to get censored. No matter what, what you say, especially if you have more conservative values. But I think this call for government regulation is we got to be very careful, because once the government comes in, it's hard to get that power back. So I like the fact that some of these big content creators who can afford it are going off and starting, their own services. And I was the first one to jump on, the Warrior Poet Society's bandwagon and subscribe, because I like their content. It's relevant, and I'm going to follow the content and that I like. So maybe sooner or later, if more people start doing that, we need to talk with dollars, right? That's what these companies know. They know revenue, and if you start taking revenue from them, maybe they'll start changing their ways.
It's all got to do with liability, and that's the thing. Google and these sites are immune from liability because they say they are open and free platforms. But when you're not an open and free platform, now you need to not be immune from that liability, and now you need to be open to legal things. That's all it is. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with their.
They are free
They're
as
not,
in
though.
dollars. They are free as in dollars. That's all.
No,
Right?
no. But the reason that
I've
they're
never seen
immune,
them as free. So,
but the reason they're immune from liability is because they do not. They say they are not authors of content. But when you are censoring certain types of content, you are now an author or an editor, and that's the big concern. Is not, again, I'm not saying that you'd be allowed to post anything on your site, but the reason that you cannot, literally, God, you could not sue Google or Facebook or Twitter.
I'm not looking for suing. That's the thing. I'm
but
asking
but
a
everything
different
is
question.
What do you mean?
Well, okay.
Sorry.
Something went
I'm getting
black.
censored by Amnon now. See that now I'm going to sue Amnon.
No, I'm still trying to get.
So here's the thing, right? You're always saying you can't sue Google. I say, fuck, I don't care about that, right? I'm saying something completely different. How come all of these large, successful platforms that everybody is complaining about, right? How come that they are always presumed to be leftist? How come
Because
there's
they are.
no such right-wing oriented or a really neutral one? How come that nobody from the right has made such a successful network?
They've tried, God. We talked about Gab. iOS won't allow them in the App Store. Android won't allow them in the App Store. They've tried. And then Google says, oh, you're a hate speech platform, because you still have to go through the big guys no matter what. How do you get an app on iOS? How do you get an app on iOS? Come on, answer my question. Answer my question. How do you get an app on iOS?
I don't know. I don't
yes,
deal
you
with
do.
iOS.
You have to go through the Apple App Store.
Yeah,
and if
so
Apple
what?
decides they don't like your content, they will not allow your app. Now, I don't use Gab, but it is the equivalent to what you just described. And it's not allowed to.
Thing. You are describing what I'm looking for. You are describing a situation.
It does exist.
Come on. What you are describing, right? Some sort of minority that is that likes to complain that their rights are taken away, but somehow can never find a way to assert their rights. And I'm starting to think, right, looking at this and saying, why is it always this discussion that comes up, right? And how come there are strong enough people to start out their own platforms, but they do not invite everyone to join their platform. So Gab is the only one. I do not agree. I somehow do not agree, because the way I see it, what wins over, right? The reason these people are kept at bay in platforms like YouTube and Google is because most of Google's and YouTube users don't want these people around. They want to push these. They call them troublemakers, right? That's how they mark them.
Gal,
they don't mark them as right.
Gal,
as right wing.
I think you're wrong. I don't think that the people don't want them. I think it's Google that doesn't want them.
But how does Google even
turn
their attention to them?
I'll
right?
answer you.
How does it work?
Wait, I'll answer your question though. If you are on the left, you have platforms galore. You don't have to complain. You go to YouTube, you go to Reddit, you go anywhere you go to Twitter, and you're there and you post and it publishes. Who will complain? The people that are not the people that are being censored. And John put a very good comment in the chat when he says, when we were talking about it before, and he says, conservatives ignore, liberals attack viciously. Now, what happens is I would say that 95% of conservatives will not complain that they are being censored. Oh, the hell with them. I don't care. I'm like that. I don't care. I let them go ahead, let them do whatever they want. I know how I feel. I talk to people and they know how I feel. But there, among this 5% that doesn't ignore, there may be a few thousand that don't just stay quiet. And they're the ones that are letting everybody know that they're being censored and that they don't like it. And it always leads to something. It leads to discussion. And that's the most you can ask from any complaint is discussion. I don't think we're going to find a solution. Like Nick said, Gab tried, and Gab is today, it's the most allowing platform, but they still have things in there that are not right. That's why you see these people yell and complain, and you think that the whole world, the whole conservative world is there complaining. No, it's not. Most of the conservative world ignores it. I mean, it happened before, and the the end result is what matters. It's just like what happened in 2017, 2016 with the elections. Oh yeah, she's going to win. She's going to win, and they were trying to get every conservative's case that they don't know what they're doing. Well, people just shut up. They didn't say anything. And who won? That's the thing, is that when you know that it's not going to come across right. When you know that you're right, or when you know that what they're doing is wrong, then you cannot. It's just like Don Quixote going to fight the windmill. You can't go against Google. You can't go against Apple. It
Okay.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
But to bring this back to the technology side for
Yeah,
just a second
yeah.
here, one of the hardest parts, I would say, is, let's say, Gal, you wanted to spin up your own. Let's say you wanted to start a Facebook alternative for conservatives, right? You're gonna have to buy. You're gonna have to buy a server somewhere. You're gonna have to rent server space somewhere. Who are you gonna rent server space from? Amazon?
China. Doesn't
No.
matter.
Well, no, but I mean, realistically, who are the guys you're gonna rent from? Azure?
No, you can find a third party that'll host you. It's not a problem.
But
There is no such thing.
no, but you can. I don't disagree with you, but I'm saying, where's the first place you're gonna look? You're gonna go look at AWS. You're gonna go look at Google Cloud Computing. You're gonna go look at Azure, right?
Probably that's where you
Microsoft,
start. Yeah.
Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. Those are the big guys that we just talked about. See, they own all. And now, yes, I know they're a third party. There are other hosts you can go with, but they own all of the cogs in the system, right? They own all of it. Google owns all of it. Amazon owns all of it. That's why sites like Twitch and YouTube are so successful. BitChute is the equivalent to YouTube, but BitChute can't scale. It's unaffordable. It is unaffordable to scale video content unless you are Google and literally own the infrastructure. Unfortunately, BitChute, has got the way that BitChute can survive is because they're crowdfunded, but that only goes so far. But yeah, I mean, what are you going to do, Gal? You're going to go start pouring some cement and spin up your own data center? I mean,
You can't.
That's
Even if
that's
you
part of what I'm asking. How come, right, that only those who poured cement and built their data structure, the infrastructure, and all that, how come they're all in the left and there's nobody from the right that's doing it? Like historically, right? Like 20 years ago, 40 years, how come we got to this point and only the left are the ones standing? That's
what
what
happens. It didn't start like that, though. It did not start. It didn't start like that. Over time, it has morphed. And now we are where we are. And it's unfortunately, as Amnon said, the right was too complacent. They allowed this to happen, and now everybody wants to complain. Well, you already gave the keys to the kingdom away. So now you can shoot it. You can shoot your stupid arrow at the front door. It's not going to do anything.
There,
mean,
there
that's
is
kind of the problem.
Gal, there is a technical problem here. You today cannot start a CDN, a content delivery, without being dependent on Amazon, Google, the big movers, because they own the highway. Yes, I can start an ISP in Raleigh that will be very, very secluded, kind of, but it's not going to get out to the world. If I want to go out to the world, I have to go with with bandwidth provider that can take me out there. And throughout the years, it became de facto that it's Google, that it's AT&T, that it's Amazon. They have the money to put in to do that. Now, as I'm saying it, I'm thinking, oh, there's a lot of conservative with a lot of money. They can do the same thing.
Yeah, they're stupid. Though.
They're doing other things with their money, I guess.
Now, let me ask you this. Let's go back to this. Gal, Merle, Amna, you guys are all older than me. You've been in technology a lot longer than I have. Right? Did you ever think at some point in time a domain registrar would be kicking domains off of their service? Amnon,
Right.
you started an ISP.
Yeah. No, that would
Did you
would
ever
never
imagine that a registrar would say, "We will literally not host, we will not be
Right.
the registrar for your domain"?
right.
I mean,
And-
that is insanity.
And again, you think about it. What does the domain registrar does?
Nothing.
Nothing. No
They point
traffic
name
goes
servers
through
to
them.
an IP address. That's
Yeah.
literally all they do.
Yeah. And no, they don't even give you the IP address. They
No.
just give you a place to put your IP address on. They're just like the phone company with a phone book, but the phone line doesn't come through them. They just list you there. And for them, for a domain registry to kick, I mean, it came out to light that it was pressure from Google and others. We're talking about Alex Jones, right?
No, we're talking about Gab.
Gab also, yeah.
Gab got kicked off
Yeah.
of registrar.com or something like that. Literally, they got a note that said you've got 6 days to move your domain because we
Yeah.
will not host it anymore.
Right.
Host it. They're not hosting anything.
It's a listing,
not
and
hosting anything.
you are doing your you became a registrar because you said I can do this and I will allow people to have their record with us. But they were forced, because if Google comes and say, hey, if you don't kick them out, then we're not going to connect you to the rest of the world.
I'll give you one more
Oh.
example.
So
I'll give you
what's
one
the
more
solution?
example. I'll give you one more. I want to give you one more example first. There's a guy, Anthony Cumia, used to be on the radio, Opie and Anthony. He started his own platform called Compound Media.
Okay.
He doesn't do. He's not really a political guy. His show is he's a comedian. He had he literally started a network from the ground up, literally in his basement. That's why it was called Compound Media. He used to host the 4th hour of the Alex Jones show, like every couple weeks. And he would just go on there and just like, he would just be a jackass and just like, he would just yell and scream for an hour. And that was it. It was the 4th hour of that show was just kind of a free for all. His CDN for Compound Media threw him off because of what he was doing somewhere else. I don't see how that, I mean, like, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. And it is in golf. It is very one-sided. I've never heard that Google is not allowing or Apple is not allowing some liberal platform on their service. I've never heard it. And I've never had anybody even be able to show me one single example of it.
Well, I don't know. The problem is, right, the only place I discuss this is on this show, right? I have zero, I do not track. No, not conservative media, not liberal media. So I wouldn't know where to even start. So most of what I know from the world is mostly your reaction to it, right? And that's usually what I'm commenting on. But let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Sounds like, right? Especially that that's saying conservative ignore,
Yeah.
liberals attack, right? From the little that I know, these attacks, when they do happen, they happen in court. They go to the Supreme Court. They go.
Oh.
They're discussed in some legality form, right? And somehow we do not end up with Alex Jones suing, I don't know, Google for banning him. We do not. This legal recourse doesn't happen. Why is that?
It's a lot of
Because
money.
no, it's
I
not because it's a
understand
lot of
that.
money. It's because they're not. You can't. These companies are absolved of liability. They
Oh, yeah.
cannot be sued. They
They
cannot.
cannot
That's
be sued for liability.
correct.
But can they be sued to take you back in and not
No.
ban you? Why not? Right? Think
Because
about it.
they're absorbed of it. They don't.
But if you can prove that you have not done any wrongdoing, then
Oh.
you should be, a judge can decide, right? And so a registrar,
but they
for
write the
example,
rules, Gal. They can
no,
say
the registrar doesn't write the rules. The government write the rules for the registrar, right? The registrar
no,
is
but the registrar's
something
got their
that
terms
is,
of service. We don't like hate. Okay, we're not going to promote hate speech. Gal came on our
then
platform and
prove hate speech. Has
okay,
hate
so
speech
one
been proven?
so go back to what you're saying. One asshole on the platform says the N-word, and now that's the reason that you're not on the registrar.
That's my
the
question. Has hate speech been proven?
no, because it's a
Right?
subjective term.
So that's why there are courts, right? That's why we have a legal system that somehow, when it's used in a certain way, works, right? So I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying I hear a lot of complaining, but the complaining are to a camera and a screen. They're to the heart of people, but not to the law, not to the minds of
Yeah,
people.
because of course, nobody in their right mind is going to take Google to court. You would be a complete and utter jackass to
What are
think
you
you're going
talking?
to take
People
Google to
take the
court.
government to court. People take everything to court, right?
You would. Oh,
Eventually it
now my
happens.
phone's
Let me tell Gal
you
something.
would go
You want-
bankrupt. Anybody would go bankrupt taking Google or any of these companies.
Gal-
They can just spin the wheels until
But
you
just
are
the publicity around something like that,
Gal,
right, would
Gal,
bring in
Gal,
stuff.
do you want to see it? How it happens? Where's all those vicious attacks?
What do you mean?
You want to see it yourself?
What you
Put-
mean? A
put-
protest,
put-
a violent protest?
put-
They're from both sides. It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
but just put on that red hat and go downtown. There may not be a camera, there may not be a TV crew, but you'll see what kind of an attack or what kind of comments you're going to get. Now, put on a Biden hat and go downtown. You're not going to hear a thing.
Well,
Why?
that's probably because it doesn't mean anything.
No, it's not. No, it does mean. I mean, I'd like to think that it does mean something for. I mean,
I
would,
get what you're saying. I definitely get what
So,
you're saying.
okay.
when
Here's
you-
I want to take
I
us out of
haven't
the-
had that experience. It'll be interesting to test it.
and you can't. And what? And these people come and attack you. Who are you going to
wanna
sue? What are you going to do? I mean, and I'm not talking about bodily harm. No,
Yeah,
I'm talking
I
about
understand.
just make you feel uncomfortable, like what they did to who was it in a restaurant, and they uh
Oh,
confronted him.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, her and her family were yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't hurt anybody, but they did hurt. What are you going to do? You're going to go and
Yeah, they
complain
asked her
to
to
the
leave.
police
They
that
asked her to
somebody
leave the restaurant
Yeah,
because of who she was and who she worked.
I mean, you can't always go after the people that
so
are doing this.
I want to take this back to where this first started because
Yeah,
I know
we
went way off.
are.
But so this comes down to the thing again. Do we sometimes want the question is, do we want the government and do we want the government coming in and enforcing some sort of regulation on these companies? And that's
Categorically no.
the big,
Categorically no.
I agree completely. But at what point do these companies have so much power, not even politically, but at what point do these companies have so much power to what you do and literally do not know? because they own the content. I would say 95% of the people get their news from Facebook, Twitter, or some sort of YouTube, Google platform. At what point are those guys so big that somebody has got to say, hold on a second here, you have way too much control, way too much power, and you're being biased. And by the way, everybody's biased. This whole idea of a neutral platform is horseshit. There's no such thing. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I was to start a platform and say, oh, it's going to be neutral, that's a crock of shit. It is not going to be neutral. I've got my own biases, and my biases will show up in my platform. That's just the way it works. Gal, if you started a platform, it would be biased because you have biases, and you will do things not even knowingly that are biased.
Of course,
It's just
I
the way
have
it
a
works.
platform. Nobody knows about it.
But that's the thing is like there's this whole idea of, oh, we need a neutral platform. It's not realistic. Everybody's got biases. There's no
But
such
that's
thing
the
as
thing.
neutral.
I'm not talking about the neutral. I'm not looking for neutral. I'm looking for transparency. That's what I'm looking for. Okay?
Exactly. And that's the big problem is these companies say, we're not doing the Google and YouTube will say, oh, we're not censoring content yet. You can look at a channel, like, for example, you'll be subscribed to a channel on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Their videos, and Merle probably experienced this with the gentleman he was talking about, their videos are not in your subscription box. They are not there. You have to go to the channel to see the videos. There's absolutely some sort of censorship or algorithm going on there. There is literally no other explanation.
So you mentioned, we started this whole discussion, I think, or at least by mentioning something, and then we went to Reddit, and then we went here.
Now we're talking about Alex Jones. Yeah.
So when I went to the Donald on Reddit, right, it's still there, but the moment you want to enter, it says, this is a quarantined area. That's how they call it, right?
Yes, quarantine. Yep.
That's what I mean by transparency. That's why I prefer their way of handling it. They don't kick you out. Yeah, they make you a second-rate citizen. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I do not think I like it very much. But for them, the solution is this place gets tons of flack, right? The rating goes up and down. They have the up and down rating, and this creates a lot of chaos on our platform. But we're not kicking you out of the platform, and you can still use it however you want to choose to use it.
Correct.
But know, right, that you're no longer an integral part like the rest. I think that's a lot better, a much better solution than any of the other platforms doing it, right?
I agree.
It is a form of let's keep free speech, even if we don't like it.
Yeah, but here's the problem. That quarantine has got serious ramifications.
I understand that. I understand it.
For example, no, but it's far from perfect. For example, if your Reddit is quarantined, which the Donald is, your posts can never show up on the front page of Reddit.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. And
you might as well be banning them. It's the same thing. Right, you're essentially doing the same thing. You're creating an echo chamber of exactly what you're trying. You're creating a very poor environment.
But so this goes back to my initial question of why this is the situation compared to a different world that we envision. It seems to me that whoever creates that echo chamber in such an environment like Reddit is those who want to speak inside the echo chamber. If you understand what I mean, they create it by creating this toxicity in it, right? That when it tries to erupt, a platform like Reddit says, "Look, you guys want to you want to talk shit, you want to talk crap, you just you can still use your toys.
Yeah, now,
stay there."
but it's not. I mean, this whole idea that there's the toxicity in the Donald isn't allowed, but the toxicity on all these other subreddits is fine. I mean, some of the vile things that you see on Reddit are incredibly disturbing. I mean, but there's the problem. Is one, I don't buy that. I think that's a cop out. I think that's a cop out. That's a cop out.
I thought I shared it with you guys a while back, but if not, I will again. It was that talk with Reddit's people and with people who study the way Reddit works, the not related to Reddit, and it was rather interesting. So I think the Donald specifically I don't remember if they were talking about that, but they were talking about other incidents that happened during the 2016 election. And one of the things um, they have analysis of how these, right, the AI that is helping in analyzing what to keep and what not and what to block, uh, trying to identify either foreign players inside a conversation, stuff like that. And it seems like if the Donald, right, as a right wing group, supporters of the president elect, then, right, and uh, if somebody is stirring up the pot, not Reddit, right, but also not the community itself, something out of the community is using that specific community, abusing it, right, and creating havoc in it, just so it'll eventually get to the point where Reddit says no more, right? What type of protection, as part of the community, as one who is part of the Donald, is part of, what type of a protection do you want from something like that? And that, I think, is key to these platforms to develop, right? So
I don't want any
the,
protection. That's the whole point of Reddit. I don't
I'm
want any
not sure.
protection. Now I'm talking. Now again, there are legal things that you don't want posted. I'll give you the example again. Again, child pornography. No platform, no service ever allows it. That is an inherent no-no across the entire internet. You do not post things like that. That is an instant, like, there's no room for that ever.
Right.
You know, okay, so we've got that. Same thing with like death threats and things like that. Those things inherently not allowed. Not things, but me calling you a jerk off. I don't want any protection from that. I mean, you make it. I mean, I was a
But I
very
don't think
active.
that's.
I was
I
a
don't
very
think,
active user of that Reddit. There were. I mean, there weren't the posts on the front page weren't. Oh, let's go over to Gal's seafood place and blow it up. You know, with a bunch of people sitting inside of it. That wasn't the kind. I mean, it's like you're making them out to these people are terrorists. I mean,
no. But what
yeah, but you're
happens
talking about
inside those
protections.
discussions, right? That's the problem. That's the community.
Yeah,
The
but
community isn't even the top post. It's the discussion.
Yeah, but the top posts are the good. So, I mean, you would look at the top posts on that subreddit. It was just news articles and links to things and memes and pictures and videos. I mean, it wasn't crazy right wing radical KKK people burning crosses on front yards. It wasn't anything like that. It was just news. That's
And
what it was. It was news.
I
And I was an
agree, but I
active
do not.
user of it.
But that's the thing. I do not think that subreddit has been quarantined, right?
No,
Because
exactly.
of that.
Exactly. You pull you pull fringe cases of things going on and say this is why something isn't allowed. And it's the same. We can have the same argument about a thousand things. If I go and drive a car into a crowd of people, you don't ban motor vehicles. It's the same thing. You set a very, in my opinion, you set a bad precedent in general for anything when you take fringe elements of any group and regulate and or discriminate against an entire group because of that. For example, Gal, you should know this better than anybody else.
But isn't it the job of the moderators of that group, right, to do that, to police the group into shape?
No, it's not. It's the moderator's job to do whatever the hell they want. As long as it's not against Reddit's terms of service, the moderators should be allowed to do whatever they want. That's the whole point of Reddit. Again, now if we're talking about talking about killing people or being violent, again, that is a whole nother conversation. But the majority of what that subreddit was not that. And to paint with a broad brush, because again, as you said earlier, one asshole decides he's going to post that it's a cop out.
First of all,
it's a straw man argument, and that's frustrating.
Nobody ever, right? Nobody ever censors a complete group because of the majority of what they say. Because most
I would
people,
disagree.
No, what I mean is
that's the way it should work.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the way it should work, by the way. I'm just saying it never happens because of the majority are okay, right? It does happen because these little things are happening and they should be stopped immediately. And now in something like Reddit, right, a subreddit should be completely controlled by its moderators. If its moderators cannot handle that, that's when they should approach Reddit and say, we need help here. But I don't know. I don't know what happened with Donald.
Yeah.
I've never went through.
I would
the
recommend
details,
you
right?
watch that video I posted from Tim Pool, who, by the way, is a liberal. It's a long video, but it's a pretty accurate. It's a pretty good explanation of it. And again, Tim
No, I
Pool
will.
Tim Pool is not a crazy right wing person. He is.
I don't think there is
Jesus.
such a thing as a crazy right wing theory.
There
They're
are.
they're either crazy, right? And then it doesn't matter whether they're right wing or left wing, right? And there are people, right? I have zero qualms with either the crazy or the right wing or the left wing people, right? It just I always strive to try and understand what drives a conversation, what drives the thought process.
It's because you're a
Why
rational human being.
Well, yeah, it's also because I'm a nerd and I'm a very boring person. But
No, you're
it's
not a
like,
boring person. You're somebody that wants to. Gal, unlike a lot of people, and I think that's why this show is Amnon has been around for so long, is because we can have a conversation without saying, "Oh God, you know what? I just don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm gonna go." Like, I mean, we can have a conversation.
but that's the part. But that's the
losing
part
our
of the
minds.
crazy, right? That's the part of the crazy that we're trying to take out.
Amnon, kick Gal off. He's pissing me off. I've been here longer than he is. I want him banned. Now I'm invoking my censorship.
We're getting
See,
to that.
that will get you banned.
Now,
just wanting to
now,
ban someone else.
Now you see, wait. You just said something that will get you banned. Now,
right.
To answer your question about what kind of protection, I mean, I don't think it's the right word. What kind of moderation? What kind of management? It's supposed to be open. I think people should have thicker skin. If you're going to go into a political subreddit and it is the opposite of what you believe in, you have to have a thick skin and be able to take it. The second thing is a moderator should be able to ban a user. If the moderator is an educated person who can see the difference between just a crazy user or whatever. But those moderators, I'll bet you, are just somebody who says, I'll be a moderator. It's fine. You should be able to ban a user. But the problem with the Reddit, again, is you can go ahead and you're banned and you create a new username and you're in there again. So these are the technical problems that you see in any of these platforms. They allow you to have your own alias to go in behind, like put a mask and go in. This would not happen in a platform that requires you to use your own name and require you to verify that that's who you are, and that's the only way you get in. None of this will happen, but that will not thrive. It will not grow because most people will not go in there to say things that are controversial. So
that would hinder free speech.
Right, absolutely. So it's something we have to learn. This is why, I mean, I don't care about Reddit. I never used Reddit because I've heard all these stories about him, and I said, forget it. I'm not interested. I mean, I had my days with EchoMail on FidoNet, what we used to call flaming. That was the word that was used, flaming. And you realize that you can be in a tug of war with somebody and be real ugly, and then you see them somewhere, you meet them, and suddenly, wow, that shouldn't have happened. This is a nice person,
You actually have a good suggestion. We can have a completely free speech system as long as you're 100% identifiable, but we cannot have, right? But otherwise we'll have a censored controlled one where people hide behind masks.
Right.
So it's either this or that.
Well,
And the striving for free speech, right? As long as you cannot hide behind, right? And I'm starting to agree with that. So I would say, do not ban an Alex Jones,
no,
right?
you
Because
shouldn't.
he's not hiding behind a mask.
Right.
I mean, he is hiding behind a crazy persona, and I doubt the person is that crazy. He is definitely a professional troll, right? But
But
it's
if I
like,
like to go see him and listen to him, I should be able
right,
to.
right. And I would say, yeah, don't ban him. I
Right.
mean, if somebody thinks he's an idiot and doesn't want to watch him, that's fine,
Yeah.
right? And if somebody thinks he's hilarious and wants to watch him for the comedic
Yeah.
side, let him. And if somebody actually believes him and is as crazy as him, also let him. I don't care, right?
Right.
Even if somebody decides that he said something, let's kill all of the, said it as a joke, and the person didn't take the joke and took out a rifle and did something about it. The problem is in the person interpreting
Right.
the content, right? The Donald Trump and his injecting what
Yeah.
was that, Lysol?
Yeah. If you
right?
believe that.
Yeah. I
and
mean,
if
I cannot blame Donald Trump for the idiot person who decided to go
right.
through that. So, uh, so I like the idea of free speech with a face, right? But then we need to also agree that anywhere that you allow somebody to come in with a mask, you must find a way of policing it.
Mhm.
Because when you put on a mask, you also get the opportunity. No, I'm not saying everyone does it, but you also get the opportunity of stripping away morals and social conventions, right?
Right.
And when you do that, you need to be vigilant in order to make sure you do not allow others to abuse it. And so
Mhm.
whatever we do, whatever big platform it's going to be, whether it's a Google or Fox News or whoever it is, right? It has to be accepted that it cannot be free speech. There is no way in hell that we can allow completely free speech behind the mask.
All exactly. So you should censor equally. That's the key.
Yeah.
If you're going to
Well,
censor equally. That's all. That's all.
whoever is getting censored, right? For them, it is 100% being censored, right? For the platform, it's just one of the troublemakers.
Correct. But if
And
you're going to censor equally. And that's the conversation. Not that censorship shouldn't happen, because we think we all agree that there are cases in which it's necessary. But if you're going to censor and you're going to play censor police, you want to talk about morals, have moral guidelines for who you're censoring and why.
Mhm.
And if you're going to censor the right for saying crazy things, then you need to censor the left for saying crazy things too, because both sides say it. That's all. And a great example, if you don't believe me, go on Our Politics and look at the cesspool of comments on there and explain to me how that shit's allowed on Reddit. I mean, it's some of the most despicable, disgusting things in the world. I mean, it's a disgrace. But it's on the front page. It's literally the top post on Reddit right now.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
that's all.
Well, it's that time of day again.
Wow.
It was interesting. You know, every day, every Sunday before the show, I go and I tweet and I gab, and tweet always says that the TikTok would serve with a side of politics, and that only came because of back when Mike was doing it. Today, it was politics with a side of technology.
Well,
I disagree.
Which is fine.
I think
it's good.
There's a lot of technology.
Yes,
This all has to do with technology.
Right. It all
Absolutely.
has to do with technology. Yeah. It was good. It's good. And I'm glad
Thanks
to
for not
see
banning
that
us.
the audience was engaged too.
Thanks for not censoring
some
us,
new
Amnon.
faces.
Appreciate it.
Interesting.
I'm not joining next week unless you censor me.
Yeah.
I can't.
Actually, that would be great. I'll take my Sunday morning. Censor me, please.
So what's the difference between censor and censure?
Censure is when you
Like
that's when you gag somebody from being able to talk, right?
oh, is that it? Is that what they did
Yeah,
with
like a s-
that with the Michigan senator or whatever?
Yeah, yes. It's
So
essentially
it's
means you're not a. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
It's yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, it was fun. It was educating. We need to do it again sometime. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll
maybe
start.
next week.
Maybe we'll start a new show.
Oh,
Politics
gee.
2K now.
Oh yeah. I'll get right
What?
on that.
That's only because you want to censor politics from this show, right?
No,
No.
no. All right. Any last comments? Anything that technical? We can't have anything to do with that without getting into a discussion. It needs to be any technical thing. Anything to add? Nothing. All right. Well, thanks, Gal. Thanks, Merle. Thank you, Nick. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Dina. Also, thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. I sure hope so. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And tonight at 7, Nick hosts Against the Norm at 7 o'clock at atnshow.com. If you're in Wilmington, you can listen to it on 106.7 Big Talker in Wilmington. See you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.